This is the MHS Pawdcast, the online radio voice of Metuchen High School.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Metuchen High School Podcast, the online radio voice of MHS. I'm Eddie Kalegi. It's time for our second ever bonus feature, a great guest joining us today. From founding an NBA team, to penning over 100 literary works, to being a world-renowned motivational speaker, our next guest has done it all. It's a pleasure to be joined by Pat Williams. Welcome to the show.
Eddie, thank you. Thanks for that nice introduction.
So while basketball might be the sport people pair with you now, you also had a budding baseball career early on. How did that experience in minor league baseball lead you to your first executive position in professional sports?
Eddie, my roots are in baseball. I played baseball in high school. I went to Wake Forest and caught for the baseball team there for 4 years. Then I spent 7 years in the Philadelphia Phillies organization, 2 as a minor league catcher, and then 5 running minor league ball clubs in the Phillies farm system. So those are my roots, and I always thought that my upside in sports was going to come in baseball. But 51 years ago, Dr. Jack Ramsey called me from the 76ers office, said he needed some help running the Sixers front office. Would I be interested? Well, I'd never met Jack Ramsey. He didn't know me, but he'd heard about me, and I went up there for 2 interviews, and the end result was I took the job, and here we are 51 years later, still in the NBA. Quite a story, isn't it?
Yep, quite a story indeed. So you talked about your time with the 76ers. You returned to the 76ers organization in 1974 and had a 12-year stint as general manager. Could you tell us about that transition back to Philadelphia and leading one of the teams in the NBA that was struggling in the mid-1970s to a future title?
Well, I went to Chicago soon thereafter and way back and spent 4 years running the Bulls, and then 1 year with the Atlanta Hawks. In the summer of 1974, I returned to Philadelphia, and you're right, that was a 76er franchise that had hit rock bottom. Mm-hmm. There was no place to go but up. So we began to make some good draft picks, and we made some deals, and the next thing you know, we became competitive. Then in 1976, we acquired Julius Erving from the Nets, mm-hmm. and we got Bobby Jones a few years later. And then in the summer of 82, we brought Moses Malone aboard. Mm. And that was the turning point. In the 82-83 season, we had almost a perfect year. Ended up beating the Lakers in the finals, and the Sixers had their title. That was the last time, by the way, a 76er team has won a title.
Wow.
And it's still clearly remembered by basketball fans in the Philadelphia area.
So in 1986, you joined the initial group of founders to create an NBA expansion team, the Orlando Magic. Tell us about that experience, how that came about, and what your position with the team is now.
Well, I was looking for a new challenge. I'd been in Philly for 12 years. I needed a new challenge. And the ultimate challenge in this business is to start your own team up from scratch, an expansion team. So I went to Orlando, hooked up with some business leaders and governmental leaders, and we began to sell the community that we could get a team. And we began to sell the NBA owners and the commissioner. And we worked hard on that, for about 10 months. Mm. And then, in late April of 1987, the NBA owners announced that they were going to add 4 new expansion teams. And that's how Miami, Orlando, Charlotte, and Minnesota got into the NBA. Hmm. And it was a great moment here, great excitement. We're currently in the middle of our 30th season as an NBA team. This is our 30th anniversary season. Mm-hmm. And I've been with the team ever since. I've worn a number of hats. Been responsible for different areas, but I guess it's safe to say I'm a lifer. I still have a great love for this team that we helped to start, and so I'm still here and probably will be till my last breath.
shifting to your personal life, when I was reading about you, I was blown away to learn that you have 19 children, 14 adopted. What has that experience been like, fathering so many, getting to bring a family together? It sounds like an amazing experience that you've had.
Well, it's been nonstop parenting. We adopted 14 children over a 10-year period, 1983 to 93. These 14 children came from 4 foreign countries, merged together with our own children, and lo and behold, we had 19 children. Don't ask me how it happened. People ask, and I said, well, we just had a hard time saying no. When we learned about these children, we just said, what's 2 more? What's wrong? Let's take 2 more. And the next thing you know, we had this massive house, 13 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, and we've gotten all those children raised. The age range is 33 to 47. We have 19 and a half grandchildren. And so we'll be in the parenting business and the grandparenting business till the cows come home.
Well, I mean, with all those kids, it must have taken all day to open all those Christmas presents.
Well, Christmas was a big deal, Eddie. It still is. We don't see all these children regularly, but at Christmas time, most of them come back. Mm-hmm. Many of the children live in California or Massachusetts or New York City or Nashville. They're scattered. But around Christmas, they all find a way to get back to Central Florida, and we always enjoy that.
So you have done and continue to do so much in your career. Since this is a high school radio show, I wanted to ask, what are some tips you have about time management?
Well, don't waste time. Don't waste your time. You can't get it back. Mm-hmm. Keep the television set off. And above all, put those little computer screens and those cell phones away. I mean, when I travel, I see young people and old alike. They've got that little thing just buried in their hands, and that's all they do. They're texting and they're tweeting, and come on. I mean, there's nothing of value that comes from that. Mm-hmm. So work hard at your studies. I mean, really work hard. And that way, you've got some options when it comes to college time. You're not going to take what's offered. You've got some options. Above all, become a serious reader about good books. Stay in shape physically. Work out. Eat properly. Vegetables. Mm-hmm. Fruit. Lean meat. Put the sodas away. Forget the fast food. And above all, get plenty of sleep. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't go to bed at 1 a.m. and then be up at 6:30.
Yep.
And have any way to have a good day the next day. You'll be exhausted. You've got to get sleep. Mm-hmm. Those are a few thoughts, Eddie.
Yep, so you mentioned it's important to be reading, and you've become an avid author in recent years, including your most recent book, Characters Carved in Stone, telling stories about West Point. Could you tell us more about what the book is about and why people should pick up a copy?
It's about the 12 benches at Trophy Point on the West Point campus. And at the end of each bench, there's a word carved into the bench, designed to plant that word right in the heart and the mind of West Point students. Mm-hmm. Words like courage, dignity, perseverance, responsibility, trust, loyalty, integrity, those kind of words. And so we did a chapter on each word, and then we used West Point graduates, famous men and women, who we thought best modeled that particular word. The book is out. It's in bookstores now. Amazon.com, always a good way to order books. BarnesandNoble.com. And I think young and old will benefit from reading the book.
So once again, the book is called Characters Carved in Stone. Pat, thanks again for joining us here on the Metuchen High School podcast, and best of luck in what is to come.
Okay, Eddie, all the best to you now. Thank you.
You're welcome. So that's about all the time we have on today's show. We hope you'd enjoyed today's Metuchen High School podcast bonus feature. I'm Eddie Kalegi. We'll see you next time here on the online radio voice of MHS.